Hi guys, welcome back to this week's episode of What's the Goss podcast. Once again in video format. Any new viewers we've had because of YouTube, hello, and here are our lovely faces. This Tuesday you're joined by your favourite host, me, Sadie, and my co-host
Mally, nice to see you guys again. Well, or hear. Well, no, I'm not seeing or hearing you. You're seeing or hearing me, so welcome back. Yeah. Um, Basically, this week we've decided to do something a bit different. We want to go over a dilemma that we've had from last week's episode, which we didn't have time to read out. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to move on to a very interesting topic of weirdest stranger interactions. This is something that I thought would be quite fun to discuss because I have some quite weird stranger interactions, throughout my life, and I think you do as well, Sadie.
yeah.
But we also have something exciting to announce, which is the fact that we now have a new segment at the end of each episode, which we are calling Chronically Online News. So we're basically going
I
to
mean,
be discussing this week's internet's drama, this week's internet's topics. So last week we spoke about the Willy Wonka and the Kate Middleton, and this week I know Sadie's got something great in stock for us as well.
totally. I mean, like, I personally do class myself, and it's not a great thing as chronically online just because of the amount of time I spend on TikTok in a day. Like, it's really not great. And you know that it's gotten out of hand where you, like, say some really niche reference, like, and your friend just doesn't understand. Like last week
Yeah.
when I screamed, "Darling, guess who's back from the psych ward?" Like, genuinely, our mothers listen to this podcast. They're not going to know what
Mm.
that means. And that just,
Yeah.
like, shows me it's gone a bit too far. Anyway, we also have a question of the week, which we asked you guys last week, which was related to a dilemma that we had sent in. Just for context, as I think we're recording this before that episode's actually gone out, a little bit of pre-recording because we're so
Mm-hmm.
prepared.
Yeah.
The question of the week was, your boyfriend takes his girl best friend to the spa. How do you feel? The options were 1000% not. And then the other option was it's just platonic. Okay.
Mm.
So the results were, what do you reckon the results were? Because I know you haven't had a look at this yet.
Um, it's difficult because I'd like to think people aren't controlling and would see the light side of it and wouldn't see it as threatening. But I think based on our audience and our opinions, probably going to be a little bit toxic, maybe. So I'm going to go for 60% say they're not okay with it and 40% say they are.
74% said they're not okay with it. And
74. Wow,
74%,
that's quite
26%
high.
said fine, like it's platonic. To be fair, right, the actual dilemma itself, when you guys actually do hear it, it's not that bad. Like, they were childhood best friends, whatever. But
Mm,
without that, like, I think we were saying this last week. Imagine if it was like a new girl best friend that he'd had within the past year, and like all of
yeah.
a sudden they're going to the spa. I went to the spa yesterday, and I was like, even just felt a bit awkward when there were like other men in the sauna, and I was just lying there like in like a pool of my own sweat, and they were like right next to me. I was like,
Yeah,
so
I think it depends. Depends on the circumstance of their friendship and like the dilemma from last week. They'd been childhood best friends, so I think it depends on the context. But I am surprised by how high that is.
I'm not. Based on past responses that we've had, I knew it was going to be high. Like, I was like, it's going to be
Mm,
90%. But anyway, guys, fair enough. Love your
yeah.
responses. So we're going to get into a dilemma that we've got. So last week, to be fair, when it gets time for us to like edit the podcast, we've already recorded for like almost an hour and a quarter. And obviously,
Mm,
we understand people don't have time to listen to all a podcast in one go. Like, it's very rare you have an hour to listen to it. So we tend to try and cut it down. Last week we did. We made it to an hour, so that was good.
yeah.
So I'm just going to read out this dilemma that we got sent in last week. It had a bit of an interesting title. We always say this, but this one had a little bit of like, it made me think, like, Okay, so the title was, my friend wore a "sorry I'm late, I didn't want to come" hoodie to our brunch date.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
I've
sure if
seen
you've like
those.
seen these yet. There, I always think I have actually seen somebody wearing one of these out in public once, and they were like with their boyfriend, and I was like, a little
Oh,
bit like if I looked at someone and they were wearing like that, like I get it's like a quirky thing, like if you're like constantly late, like it, but it's really annoying. It's like,
mm.
don't be late and wear a hoodie like that because that's just annoying.
So she actually turned up
Okay,
late as well, did she?
yeah, Well, I'm assuming so. I haven't read it yet, but it's like if she's saying
Okay.
something, she's going to be late. Okay. Hey ladies, I need to vent because I'm absolutely fuming right now. My lifelong best friend and I go way back to primary school days, but lately she's been pushing the boundaries with her behaviour. Her new boyfriend seems to be the root cause of her chronic lateness and last minute cancellations, which is starting to take a toll on our friendship. My friend's always had a quirky sense of style, and she's particularly fond of hoodies with snarky slogans. Very millennial of us. I agree with that. You know when you like go to like New Look or H&M and you're like, oh yeah, like really nice top, and it's like got
And then you
girl
turn it
power.
around and it's got like a really horrendous quote on it, and you're just like, I'm not wearing that. They
Yeah,
ruin
I
it.
know. Very millennial of that. No, sorry if you guys are millennials, but okay. Today we had plans for a brunch date, and I patiently waited for her for a whopping 35 minutes. Her excuse was traffic, but I have her live location on Snapchat, and guess what? She was chilling at home with her boyfriend, who I also have his location, just a 5-minute drive away from our brunch spot.
Oh, that's just plain
Imagine my
rude.
embarrassment. Yeah, it's so rude. I hate that. Imagine my embarrassment when she finally strolls in wearing a hoodie that reads, Sorry I'm late. I didn't want to be here. Talk about nerve. It's bad enough to be kept waiting, but just to add an insult with that hoodie, it's beyond disrespectful. When I called her out on it, she brushed it off as a joke, but it's crystal clear that she doesn't value my time or friendship. I'm left feeling frustrated and hurt by her blatant disregard for our plans and my feelings. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually quite an original one. We've not had anything quite like that before. Um,
Mm.
Wow, where to begin? I think because she has so much information, it's quite easy to give our opinion on this. Like, she has very much made it seem as if this friend is in the wrong. Obviously, there's two sides to every story, but how many
Mm.
sides can there be to this story? Like, it's quite obvious. It's black and white. She literally wore the hoodie with the writing on. Do you know what I mean? It's not really up for discussion in terms of who's in the wrong. If this was Nama the arsehole, she'd be the arsehole for sure. So
Oh, God,
having their locations as well adds a new sort of like twist on it. So she could literally see that. So did her friend not think of that when she was late? Like, oh, she can actually see my location right now. I'm literally at home, like 35 minutes to wait for someone who lives 5 minutes down the road. It's not as if she was getting dressed into a really nice outfit, doing her hair, whatever. She literally turned up in a hoodie with almost like just a very like sarcastic quote on
And it
it.
seems like this will be like a reoccurring thing as well. If she lived 5 minutes walk away, I'd be literally like on her door, like get out. Especially if I saw that like her boyfriend was with her as well. Assumingly,
Mm,
like to be fair, I have got quite a lot of people's live locations on Snapchat. Like I've got quite a few of my friends on there. I've got all of my family. So like if they're late, I don't
mm,
like think, oh my god, they've been in a car crash. Like they haven't. Like I know exactly where they are. And I know
yeah.
like some people just have their locations on no matter what. Like her boyfriend probably wouldn't have thought like, oh, she's gonna check my location. Her boyfriend's probably like, no, like not even like last thought on his head, on his mind.
Mm,
Um, so it's just like blatant disrespect, really, especially if it's like something that's reoccurring, which it is from this dilemma. Like it seems like this is a new thing that's happened, and we've
mm,
had it before, guys. Like we totally get it if you have a new boyfriend, like your friends kind of do become a little bit less of a priority. And I think everybody kind of does go through that stage only because there's a new person in your life taking up so much time and energy. But like that really does like backfire on you a lot of the time because if something happens with that new relationship and you're rocking up late to brunch with your supposedly closest friend wearing a sorry I'm late I don't want to be here hoodie, they're not going to stick around for a long time.
no, because it's quite true. It's not as if you were on time and you wore that hoodie, or like you wear it all the time. Like that must have been the first time she saw that hoodie if she really thought, oh, she's wearing that hoodie. Do you know what I mean? I think it's kind of like adding insult to injury when you do something like that. I think you should bring her up on it, to be honest. Just be like, I'm not being rude, but I waited 35 minutes for you today, and then you had the like audacity to turn up in that hoodie. Like, do you want to kind of like explain yourself? Because I'm quite hurt by that. So I can understand like some people they're like having a like breakdown before they come out. Like I can't find an outfit and all of that, but it doesn't sound as if that's the case based on like the context of this of her being very like bad with plans and things recently. So pull her up on it. Explain to her like, did it was it a new boyfriend or has she been with him a while?
New boyfriend.
New
New
boyfriend.
boyfriend.
Just explain to her. Just say I'm really sorry, but like the way that you're acting is upsetting me. I'm not trying to cause a fuss, but your attitude towards our plans makes me feel very like unappreciated and unimportant. Bring up.
Quirky. I literally guarantee she thought she was so cute and quirky by wearing that jumper. She was like, I'm late, like I'm gonna wear this jumper, like haha, like I'm so funny, like lateness. I
Mm,
hate lateness. Like
I hate people being
honestly,
late.
being on time is like a love language, in my opinion. Like, it's punctuality at the end of the day. Like, if you say you're going to be
Yeah.
there, be there. Like, I totally
It's a
understand the
sign of
circumstance, but
respect.
like, if it's traffic, yeah, if it was traffic or something, totally, you know. But
Mm.
if I've got your live location, don't lie. It's just odd,
Yeah.
really odd.
It's the same with anything. Like if you arrange a time for something, fair enough if you need like there's a couple of occasions where you need to like be a bit late or whatever, but if you're constantly doing it without apology and without recognizing that, then I don't have time for that. Like my time is precious. You obviously don't have any respect for me if you don't think that, if you think I can spend my day waiting around 35 minutes. Not only that, it's embarrassing. Like especially if you're in a cafe waiting for someone, like you're sat there looking like your date has stood you up. I'd be really embarrassed about that. I'd be really self-conscious that people are thinking like, oh, she's been stood up, she's here by herself. Like, not that it matters to be there by yourself, but that would be running through my head as someone who can have a bit of anxiety sometimes. So
Yeah.
no,
And then
that's
she
not
turns
on.
up wearing a hoodie saying she doesn't want to be there. I'd be
Yeah.
absolutely raging. And like this girl, let me just see what time this got sent in. This got sent in at 2 p.m. last Friday. Right. So she must have sent this in literally as soon as that happened, because brunch time is around about like 10:30 till 1 o'clock. Like, you don't really get brunch. Well, you can get brunch, but then it's more like dinner, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, she must have sent this in like because she said she needed to vent and she's absolutely fuming. Don't blame
Mm,
you. It's been disrespect. And that's that, really.
yeah, definitely put her up on it. Anyway, guys, moving on to today's topic, which is weirdest stranger interactions. So I had to write a couple down when I was thinking of them the other day, and I do have some weird ones. I'm sure there's weirder ones out there, but these are the ones that came to mind for me. The first one I'm going to let you guys know is probably one of the most recent out of them all. Um, and it was weird, like looking back on it. So what happened was, um, I was basically, me and my friend, we were in Swansea city centre. We were just like walking along, whatever. We had nice outfits on. I had like a really nice like tropical like shirt on from Zara. They used to do a really nice cropped like silk tropical shirt. I was wearing it with like flared jeans. It looked really nice. This was about 2 or 3 years ago now. And walking along, whatever, we decided we would take some photos of each other. There was like this bright blue door from one of the Italian restaurants, which like wasn't open on the street, and it's like a very wide street. It's not like we were in the way or anything. So we were just taking some photos there, and then all of a sudden, this guy like walks up to us with a camera, and he's like, "Oh, do you want me to take some photos of you?" And I was like, I was
Instant
really taken back.
flashbacks
I
to
was like,
Rome tourist trap.
"Huh."
Instant flashbacks to the Rome tourist trap.
Yeah, the Rome tourist trap. Oh my god, we'll get into that. But yeah, yeah, in Rome they basically come up to you, don't they? And they say like, "Oh, let me take a photo of you. Let me take a photo of you." And then they do it on your phone at first, and then they try and grab their own like camera and take a photo of you and charge you for it. I know, Sadie, your boyfriend actually fell for that trap, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Not great. This is what I was thinking when he said this guy in Swansea with the camera. I was like, tourist
Mm.
trap.
So it wasn't anything quite like that. He didn't want any payment in that way, but I feel like if this had continued, then the payment may have been explicit, if you know what I'm trying to say. So basically, what happened was, I don't know how old I was at the time. Like, I don't think I would have been. Oh, I was definitely 18, but I wouldn't have been like that old. I think, were me and Saul together at the time? No, we weren't. We weren't together at the time, so I could have been 17 actually. Um, so yeah, we're walking along the street. He came up to us, asked if we want to take some photos. I felt a bit uncomfortable because like posing in public is awkward anyway. We're not the kind of people that like take photos with chest in public. Like by that I mean like with confidence. Like we do it on the sly, like as quick as you can. Like quick, get a snap of me here. Like not like posing on the street, like really posy or anything. Anyway, so he came up to us asking if he wanted to take a photo. Casey didn't want, my friend who I was with, Casey didn't want any photos taken of her because I don't think she was like feeling it at the time, whatever. I was like, oh, okay, like sure. The main reason I wanted a photo there was because the colour matched my shirt anyway, long story short. So he asked us to take these photos, whatever. I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead, like, thank you. And then he was like, oh, what's your Instagram? I'll send them to you. And at the time, I really just didn't think much of it because, like, I don't know, like, I was 17. I'd recently lost, like, quite a bit of weight. I didn't, like, I was, like, in my hot era, but, like, I didn't really know it at the time, if you know what I mean. Like, I was in my glow-up era, but I wasn't really aware of it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really used to the attention, if you know what I mean. Like I just didn't think anything of it. Like I was just very naive to the world. I didn't think much of it when he approached me like that. Now I would think differently, but at the time I was naive. And so he started taking photos, whatever. And he said he'd send them to me on Instagram. So a few days go past and I've not had anything from him. And I messaged, I was like, oh, because I think he'd messaged me at the time saying, like, hey, it's me, like, blah, blah, so that I had like a record of who he was. And then he basically took ages to send them. In the meantime, he was messaging me basically asking if I wanted to go to Cardiff and do like a photo shoot with him. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, as like a work thing? Because I'm like not a model or anything. And he was like, oh, like it could be like a work thing, but like maybe we could like go out afterwards. And like he was being really weird. Like I can't remember the exact words he was saying, but like he was making it really weird as if this was going to be like a date and like as if I was going to like stay over and stuff. And I was like, no, like I don't think so. Like I'm 17, blah, blah, blah. And then he was just being weird. And anyway, in the end, he sent me the photos and they were the worst photos I've ever seen. He put like a Retrika filter on them, basically, like really weird, like warm, like almost like when you stain a letter with a tea bag. That was the effect that was on the photos, which bear in mind was obviously not the vibe, like wasn't the aesthetic I was going for. So they were horrendous. So not only did I basically almost get groomed, because I've heard of this actually being a grooming thing. Like there's loads of
Yeah.
photography grooming like situations, and I was so unaware of that at the time. Luckily, I do have quite a good head on my shoulders, and I didn't go along with it and like go meet him in Cardiff like alone. It could have been really bad because this guy was like in his mid 30s, like I was 17. Do you know what I mean? It was very weird. So that was a very weird stranger interaction, one that I will not forget because especially just because of how bad the photos were. And I looked at his account, right, and the weirdest thing about it all was he wasn't a people photographer at all. He literally took photos of cars and that's all he took photos of. So the fact that he wanted to randomly take photos of me was like really bizarre because that wasn't even his like clientele at all. So
So,
yeah.
so weird. But honestly, like you hear of these scams going around with these guys like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer, like come to my studio in Cardiff, and then they'll like obviously make the girl do things they're uncomfortable with, like literally like in their bra or like nude for because obviously if you're a young girl there and you're in a photographer's studio, you're gonna
You
feel a
think
little
it's
bit
official?
pressured, aren't you? Especially if you're
Mm.
17 years old. Like it's honestly like a bit of a weird like human trafficking sort of like
Oh,
freaky
do you know what
situation to
that's
be in.
just
So good that
reminded
you
me
don't
of?
have what?
That's reminded me of something so funny. The Paul Breach situation. Do you guys remember the Paul Breach situation?
You know more about Paul Breach than I do because I
I
know
know more about
briefly,
Paul Breach
but
than
you
anyone.
know a lot about Paul Breach. I
I
feel like that's
do.
a lot.
Basically, a while ago, I had this fixation on this old man on TikTok. Basically, it just became my whole life. I feel like I was going through a traumatic, like stressful period in my life, and this was my only escape was Paul Breach drama on TikTok. So Paul Breach is like he's in his early or mid 40s. He is weird AF. Basically, he's this TikToker who basically essentially did try and groom somebody by saying he was a photographer. He built up a following online by doing like green, green grass, blue,
Green
blue
works.
sky, and like dancing. Bear in mind, he's got like, he doesn't look young for his age. He looks older than his age. Like he's got completely grey hair. They say he looks like Billy Bear Ham. Like his face is like white with bright red cheeks. Like he looks really weird. Apparently he has a son who he has nothing to do with, who he had with like a 16-year-old, like when he was like in his like late 20s or something. That's like a big rumor. He's really sarcastic and like rude to anyone who comments anything like negative about him. He just made himself basically number one enemy on TikTok, and people did not take it lightly. He had like die-hard teenage girl fans, which was bizarre, and then like
It's crazy.
everyone else on the internet basically hated him. There's 1,000 memes I could tell you about him, but basically, yeah, he did essentially groom this one girl into meeting him in an Airbnb in like Brighton or something, and apparently meeting her to take photos and stuff. But realistically, they actually ended up sleeping together, which she later came out and said. Um, and yeah, it was just this whole weird situation where I think she was over 18, but she was either like 18 or 19. She wasn't any older than that. So very, very bizarre. Very bizarre. And yeah, could have been me. Could have been me, but it wasn't me, luckily.
Beware of those guys with the cameras, guys. On especially if you're in Rome. Especially if you're in Rome, because
Mm.
I recently came back from Rome and so did you. Like we went to Rome within about 3 weeks of each other. I went at the end of December. You went like in was it early Feb or was it like end of Jan or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah. So we went there, me and my partner, we were like by the Trevi Fountain. It was like gorgeous. It was a lovely evening, and we were like kind of taking selfies. And then this man came up to us, and I noticed he kind of like had a camera here. It had like a neck like thing, like it was attached to
Strap,
him
yeah.
basically. And he was like, oh, like lovely couple, like let me take a
Mm.
photo of you, don't worry, I'll take the photo for you. And it's not like he instantly was like this, because I would know it was a tourist trap if it was like that, like I'm not stupid.
Mm.
And he took my phone, took some photos of us from my phone. And at this point, I was a little bit like, is he going to run off with my phone? Like, this seems a bit too good to be true. He gives my phone back and starts taking photos of us on his professional camera. And it was one that you have like a printout, like it was nice, like a Polaroid camera, I think they call them. Um,
Mm.
and he gave us the photo, and obviously it takes a little while to develop, you know. Anyway, so me and my partner Dav, we were like looking at the photos, like, oh, like that's really lovely, thank you. But I could kind of tell the photographer guy was like, yeah, like really lovely, like give me some money, really lovely, like give me some money. Like he literally was doing it like that so that I wouldn't hear it, but he was kind of like saying it to my partner, like, yeah, lovely couple. Now, like, money. Like he was saying that, so weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I knew this was happening, and my partner was like, "Oh, I don't have any money. I don't. Do you take card?" And he was like, "No, my friend, come with me. I show you with the ATM. Ha ha ha." All of a sudden, puts his arm around my boyfriend like this, walks him over to this like shop. It was like a cigarette shop. It was.
Oh, yeah, I know the
It
ones you
goes
mean.
up
They
to
all have, like, ATMs as you walk in, yeah.
yeah. So go there. Minimum withdrawal was 20 euros. So
Um,
basically, he ended up giving him 20 euros for this photo. And the kicker was, I wouldn't mind some, obviously, I wasn't one of those paying, but I wouldn't mind so much if it was a good photo.
mm.
An hour later, it's a photo of us and the background is black. 2 hours go by. It's literally the same. This man, we paid 20 euros for a photo like this of us and a black background. It didn't develop properly. It was probably a rubbish photographer, I had no experience. But anyway, that was one of my
Mm.
horrific photographer
Oh
experiences.
god.
So if you guys go to Rome, stay safe out there because there's a load of tourist scams.
Yeah, I actually would have fallen for that if you hadn't told me, because that same, like, group of people approached us and was like, I was like, "No," immediately, "No." I was like, "No, no, no." And I told Saul ahead of time as well, because yeah, I was nobody around me fell for it actually, but yeah, they just appear out of nowhere, and you can just tell because they've got those cameras around their necks, and it's just dodgy. Like, why are you there by yourself? Like, very weird. So there is a lot of scams like that going around in Rome. Like, they'll try and throw bracelets at you, they'll try and give you flowers, they'll try and give you water bottles, anything they can try and hand to you, portable chargers, anything. As soon as you've got that in your hand, I guarantee they'll be trying to demand some money from you. Like, we'd be walking down the street, my boyfriend was wearing Nike Panda Dunks. And these guys would go up to him like, "Oh, Michael B. Jordan, you're so tall. Are you a basketball player?" and all of this, even though he's not black, by the way. It was just because he's literally tall. That's it. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And he was like, "Oh, where you from? Where you from?" And he was like, "Oh, UK." And they're like, "Oh, UK, oh, UK." And like trying to give him bracelets. This one guy literally threw a bracelet at him, and it just landed on the floor. So literally just put his hands up and was like, "No," because we just knew as soon as you take that from them, it's game over for you. Game over for you.
Honestly.
So we didn't take anything out of anyone's hands. By the end, I was like, no, no, I was actually getting annoyed. I was like, no, I don't want any water. Like, constantly approaching me. And it does worry you because you're like, are they going to mug me? Are they going to, like, you just don't know. This is a complete stranger on the street, and it is actually quite scary. So just beware of that when you do go on holiday to places like Rome, Paris, any kind of European city. It does happen. Which does make you realise, well,
Yeah.
how different the UK is, because we really don't have anything like that here, do we?
When you're in London, you do see a few, but that's literally just
Mm,
London, like not where we live. Like it's definitely not where
yeah,
we live.
no,
And like to think we went in like December, January, like the quietest possible times that there are in these
yeah,
places, and we still had all of these like weird
yeah.
experiences.
Very bizarre, but it's
Speaking
a lovely
of,
place to visit. But just watch
yeah,
out for that.
totally. Speaking of weird experiences, I wanted to recap a little bit about my time working at Lush.
Ooh,
Because honestly, I feel like my time working at Lush could have been a fever dream. Like when I tell people I worked at Lush, they're like, "That's like crazy," because I feel like a Lush employee, you don't really have any other company where being an employee of that company is like a big deal. That they have that much of like a stigma. Like Lush employees have,
yeah,
they definitely have a stigma. Everybody
for
knows what
sure.
Lush employees are like. And like the reputation is that we're so pushy, we're salespeople, and we are. Like that's the truth. Like we were. It definitely brought me out of my shell. I started working there from the age of 16, like literally freshly 16. I started working there in August of 2019,
Mm,
as a seasonal employee. So I was originally taken on just like a 3 month contract over the Christmas period, which like, I really enjoyed that. I was just kind of bargaining on it only being that. Um However, at the start of the contract, we were told that they would be taken on one person for like after Christmas, and there were 20 of us. So it was basically like a big fight, like competition. And
Mm.
me, because I am the best, I was that employee. I got taken on after Christmas. Little did I know how mental it would be. So
Yeah.
Wicked Lush, people walk through the door and I feel that they automatically hate you. They just don't
Yeah.
like you. And I do
100%.
get it. I do get it because I was a little bit scared of Lush employees before I stopped working there. However, it's before you realise how much you are pushed by managers to actually do the sales and do the talking. When I started there, I was a very timid teenager who really didn't like to speak to anybody. And when I came out of there, I have a talking problem, like literally can't stop talking. And it's because for 9 hours a day, you are put on the shop floor and you literally have to sell people products. I was told that if somebody comes in for one product and you do a demo, you can't just demo that one product. You have to demo up to 5 other products. You're not allowed to do any less than 5 products. You have to give them a full routine, even if that's not what they want, even if they just want a moisturizer, toner, like cleanser, like everything, serum, everything. So, granted, because of this, we had some really odd experiences. I remember my second shift on the job, I was just innocent little sales assistant, and I was not great at my job at the start, really didn't know how to speak to people.
Mm.
And we were told we're not allowed to ask like yes or no questions. We have to ask open-ended questions. So
Yeah.
the question that I would say to people, not like, are you okay? That would be yes or no. It would be, what brings you into Lush today? Like, what brings you into Lush today? It
Yeah.
would be like that. So people would be like, oh yeah, looking for a bath bomb.
Mm.
Walk up to this woman, the grandmother with her granddaughter.
Oh, I remember you
Hi,
telling
what
me
brings
about
you to
this.
Lush today? I get this in my face.
How
Bog
dare
off. Bog off. Tracy Beaker. I didn't realise Tracy Beaker just walked into Lush. I didn't know.
Class.
And she literally went bog off. And because like obviously I was so timid, like this really set me aback. I was like, what the hell? Like if this happened to me now, I would like actually like piss myself laughing, like sorry.
Yeah.
Um and I was like, what do you mean, sorry? Like I'm really sorry. Like, what do you mean? She was like, just leave us alone. She's coming with some Christmas money. She doesn't want to be bothered. And you could tell the granddaughter was like taken aback. She was like, Grandma,
Like,
like, what
oh
are you
my
doing?
God,
Like,
Grandma.
sorry, who are you? And I just went in the back and cried because at this point I was still
Aw.
like quite new to customer service. Like I worked in restaurants since I was 13. My first ever job, I actually lied about my age, said I was 14 so that I could legally work because I wanted money. Like I wanted that hustle at the age of 13. But this, I was, I'd only been in customer service for about 3 years. So if anything would happen like this, which it kind of happened quite often in Lush, I would go in the break room and just cry. Just cry. And
Oh.
one thing I will say about Lush as well, if you need therapy, they will pay for you to have therapy. They pay for like 30 hours or something in like a set period of time. Can't remember how much time that was. Like
Mm.
that was in a year. They pay for 30 hours of therapy a year, which is like obviously really good.
Yeah.
But I get why you need it because the horrific things people would say to you just for working there and existing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like walking into Lush, the staff are overbearing, and I can understand it's a sales technique, but there is actually people out there, including myself. Like, if I haven't got a lot of time on my hands, I'm not walking into Lush because I know, and I am quite good at like saying no to things, but God, they literally just like they're too much. Like, they ruin the experience of it for me. It's like I'm trying to have a nice look around. You're trying to tell me all this. Like, I'm just trying to look. Like, give me a minute. It's like it makes you feel like when you walk into like Boots or something and like, can I help you
Yeah.
with anything today? It's like, no, you can't. Like, it's always the people like trying to get you over to come over to the makeup counters, and their makeup is like dreadful. And I'm like, no, I'm not being funny, but like, I don't really want makeup advice from you. Like, your makeup looks horrendous,
Benefit
and you literally
counter.
work here. So it's just overbearing. I don't like it when staff are like that when you walk in somewhere. I think a greeting is nice. Like where I work, we have to do like that kind of thing. But not literally like forcing it down people's throats as soon as you get in. Like I really
Yeah.
don't like that. But that was
So
really unwarranted what that woman did. Like to put her hand in your face and say bog off, like please grow up. That's not for setting a very good example for her granddaughter as well.
honestly,
Horrible.
Um, how to get rid of a Lush employee? Just so you guys know, if you ever go into Lush and you don't want to be spoken to, because fair enough. Because we have like a kind of like, think of it like a diagram. Customer comes in. What brings you into Lush today? Like bath bomb counter, like blah blah blah. Just looking. That goes down a different thing. So
Mm.
if somebody says just looking, be like, oh yeah, totally fine. Let us know if you need anything. 2 minutes goes past. You have to check on them again. 2 minutes. that's what you get. You get 2 minutes to have a look before we can come and like speak to you again. I know this varies store by store. And I think that Lush definitely adopts like an American sales tactic,
Mm.
1000%. Like you do hear a lot of this in America. Like you walk into these places like Bath and Body Works, like but it's not a car dealership. I just want to buy a bath bomb. Like it's not,
Yeah,
and like
literally,
we
like
don't want to do it either. Yeah,
you're not getting
we don't
commission
want to
for it.
come you.
No.
Yeah, like we get that people just want to look. But yeah, so I could definitely say a load of things that happened to me at Lush, but there was one thing that happened actually after a shift at Lush, which had nothing to do with being at Lush whatsoever.
Mm.
But this was like fun fact, really, really sad fact. Like it's kind of
Traumatic.
low key,
Trigger
it's like a
warning.
little like trigger warning, public flashing.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like, just so you know, I got flashed
Yeah.
in public, and this
Yeah.
was something that was very big deal at the time. However, I kind of laugh a little bit about it
Very
now,
weird
but obviously
stranger experience.
it's not
Yeah.
like it's not a laughing matter, but I laugh about it. So
Yeah, well, you're allowed
anyway,
to laugh about it because it's your experience, but like you wouldn't want people to laugh at you about it. I feel like you're over it now. This was quite a few years ago, wasn't it? But at the time, this was like really horrible experience for you
yeah,
and a
it
very
was. It was
weird
shaking
stranger
up.
encounter. So tell us the
Yeah.
story.
So I don't know where you guys are from that listening to this. Assumingly you don't know of a little town called Carmarthen, that I and myself and Mally, we've both worked in our time. So this is a town that if you're familiar with, you kind of get it, or like the layout of the town. Just for example, Lush
Yeah,
is up the road, Lush is down the street, and there is a little like it's kind of like a square section where you've got like there's the body shop, there's the O2 shop, and opposite that is Greg's. I'm like, we all
yeah.
know and love Greg's. Above Greg's, there's like flats and like I don't know if it was like an office building. I think it was kind
No,
of
they're
flats. I don't
flats
remember
above
what it
Greg's.
was
Yeah, they're flats.
flats,
Yeah,
yeah. So I was standing by the O2 building, the like O2 phone shop, outside body shop, and like obviously I was facing Greg because at the time I was 16 years old, didn't drive, waiting for my mum to come pick me up from work, and she was parked in one of the car parks just behind the O2. So I was on my phone. I was on my phone, and all of a sudden I hear like banging above the Gregs, and I was like,
what the
okay,
hell?
I don't really know what that was. I look up and I see one woman and two men there banging on the glass, like glass window, and like just like shouting at me. And I was like, this is a little bit odd. Like I'm in my Lush uniform, I've got my little lanyard, like little uniform. And all of a sudden, I was about to do it then. This
Don't
woman
do a
lifts
demonstration.
this woman lifts her top up and just like goes like this. Like with it like and
What,
I'm
like
like, what are you
shaking?
doing? Yeah,
Mm.
she's like shaking her boobs like a bust. And like just for context, her bust, like a PG version, her
Yeah.
badonkers. For context, she was in like a uniform, like it looked like very much like corporate office, like kind of uniform. I'm like, we were wearing a corporate office uniform in Carmarthen town, like, and these
Mm.
two men, and then she started like laughing. And then the guy kind of like went to like pulled his trousers down. And then I like looked away, like I didn't necessarily see anything. Like I was a
Mm.
bit like, what the hell? Anyway, this was
That's
obviously
weird.
a little bit traumatic for me because I was like, I did not consent to seeing your bosom
Yeah, that is actually
area.
illegal. Like public
Yeah,
indecency, that flashing, like indecent exposure, that is actually like illegal. It is a
yeah.
crime,
And
especially
at the
to
time, it
someone
was
under
very
the age of 18. That's
yeah,
children. Like you are classified as a child in the UK under the age of 18. So that is a very serious thing to be doing. And what if there was kids around? Like that is horrendous. Not only that, but it's very just predatory and like really weird. Like what were they trying to do? There was two men, one woman. Like were they trying to entice you for like a foursome? Like what were they actually trying to do? It was
yeah.
very bizarre.
Can you imagine them in the flats being like, "Oh, guys, I got a great idea. It's that girl there, gonna flash my tits." Like, who thought of that idea? And like, how did this come about that you guys were
Horrible.
all gonna get kicked out doing it? So obviously they didn't know who they were messing with at the time because I
No.
take things quite seriously. So I decided to call the police.
What, like 999?
I called 111, and I was
111.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like crying my eyes out, and I was
Oh,
like, I've just flashed in public, like don't know what to do. Like I don't know why. I get it. Like it was kind of like a little bit traumatic, but like also I'm looking back and I'm like, why did you need to do that? Like call 111 and be like, just been
To
bashed.
be fair, I
Anyway,
feel like at the young age of like 17, you don't understand like how the police work, and like you expect the police to turn up at the time, like knock on the door, be like, right, indecent exposure. Like the police, no offense, like don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of respect for the police, but they have quite a lot to deal with, and I don't think they turn up for things like that necessarily. Like it's good to report them 100%. Like I'm absolutely for reporting them, but at the time you probably thought they would like turn up and like do something about it, but in reality they probably never did anything about it, did they?
they did not do anything. So it called them and they ended up transferring it to like the crime handlers, like crime stoppers department. And I actually got a call
Yeah,
back from investigator and she was like, so tell
yeah,
me what happened. Like, tell me, did he notice any cameras? Like basically seeing if this was caught on camera, did he record it? And I was like, no.
yeah.
And she basically said, right, okay, so we're going to give you a call in a few days and tell you what's happened. So what ended up happening was she actually ended up going to the flat. So she
Oh.
ended up. I kept saying I'm not sure if it was an office building because they were in office uniforms or if it's a flat. They went to the flat and they had a talk with them, but they said they couldn't press any charge. I thought they were literally going to like put them in jail at the time. I was like, jail for you, like
Yeah,
no, no jail. They just had a talking to, which, like, to be fair, I think that's a little bit like that's very embarrassing for them, like having to be spoken
yeah.
to
The
about like
police turn up at
rushing
your door. Not only that, but I can't lie. I feel like I'm not trying to stereotype, but the flats above there, they are a little bit like dodgy. I think they're quite cheap to rent. Like they are a little bit dodgy. So the kind of people that live there, if they're doing things like that, it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing like other illegal activities like drugs. And like that
Yeah,
seems like a drug fueled incident, if you know what I mean. So they probably did shit themselves when the police turned up at the door. Like they probably had drugs in the house. Like they could have had, anything. Like I'm not trying to stereotype or make assumptions, but based on knowing the area, like it wouldn't be completely out of the ordinary for them to maybe be partaking in other illegal things. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely always report things like that. But I actually have a very similar story, weirdly,
Oh,
which I did have on my list, but it ties in perfectly to this. Not as serious, but basically, I used to work at a shop. I don't know, am I going to name it? I don't think it needs to be named, but a smaller shop, not Tesco or Aldi, like a smaller sort of shop that's open later. Anyway, I worked there in a town which wasn't particularly wasn't like a very like rough town or anything. Like there's a lot of second holiday homes there. It's actually quite a posh town, and I worked there for quite a few years. Like I can't remember exactly how long, but over a year I worked in this shop, and I used to work on the tills and like doing stocking the shelves and things like that. I was only, I think, 17 at the time, and basically what happened was, I was either 17 or 18, I can't quite remember. But there was these people that used to come in quite a lot to buy like alcohol. There was a really big like walk-in alcohol room there, which like none of the other like versions of this shop really have. Like we had a huge alcohol selection because that was how much alcohol we sold. Like that village or town where I worked, I would like to see the amount of like the percentage of alcoholics there, because it was like extortionate the amount of like alcohol that we sold. That was like probably our main seller, if you know what I mean. It was just really sad but true. And anyway, so there was these men that used to come in like quite a lot. They were like local scaffolders, and they would have a joke around, whatever, blah blah blah. But they were always on a bender. Like they were always drunk, always coming in buying like loads of crates of things, like always drunk. So one time they come in, and I think I'd seen them before. They didn't always come in together. Like one of them like just lived up the road. The one in question in this story just lived up the road. And so I would see him quite regularly, but this was one of the first instances that I had with him, which in the end we kind of ended up like being like friendly. Like it wasn't like I was like calling the police or anything, but it was a really weird experience. So what happened was they came in one day, they were clearly drunk. One of them had he was putting a bag over his head and like messing around. Bear in mind these men are in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, even maybe close to 40. Like they were getting on. So this shenanigans wasn't really on. Like I was a 17-year-old girl.
yeah,
Like it's hard enough to work somewhere like that as it is dealing with like boisterous people, but when you add like the ridiculous like things that they would do on top of it, it was just like too much sometimes. So basically what happened
completely.
was they were messing around, whatever, came over to the till. The guy in question was wearing nothing but his dressing gown. Bear in mind, we're talking middle of the day. Like they must have just finished work. It was about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, nothing late like that. Maybe 4 o'clock. It wasn't late at all. So he's in his dressing gown, navy dressing gown. He looks like he's just got out of bed, or like like his friends have literally just walked up to his house and like got him on the sash, and he's just woken up. Like that's literally what he looks like. And he comes over to the till and he's like saying, "Oh yeah, darling, this and that," talking about like buying me flowers because there was like flowers by the till and stuff, and all of this. Next thing you know, he flashes his nipple to me. He opens his dressing gown and flashes his nipple to me. And I was like, bear in mind, we are so close to each other right now. This is a standing till, not a sitting till, a standing till. He is literally less than a meter away from me, like half a meter, like not much at all. Like my arm could reach out and touch him. That's how close he is, right? And we're just staring directly at each other. And he does this, and I'm just like, really uncomfortable because I don't think I'd worked there that long at the time. And for something like
Yeah,
that to happen is like very out of the, like, it's weird. Like, obviously, some people just have a laugh and a joke about that. But for me, I was quite taken back. I was like, I feel kind of like assaulted right now. Like, you're making me uncomfortable. You're saying you're gonna buy me flowers, this and that. Bear in mind, he had like two young kids. I don't think he was with anyone like in a relationship, but he had two young kids. Like, he was a parent at the end of the day, and it was quite obvious how young I was as well. Like, I didn't look particularly old. And so they were just being really boisterous and all of this and like saying all these things to me. And I was just like, oh, I really don't like that. And then, yeah, when he flashed his nipple, that was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Do you know what I mean? I don't remember if I ever did anything about it. I don't think I did, but that was a weird situation. And I did have a lot of situations like that working there. Loads of different things. There was this one time where there was this guy coming into the shop, and I used to serve him all the time. Like, he would always buy sweets and things. I think he was like mentally very young for his age. I think he was probably in his like late 30s, early 40s, but he was this really big guy, exactly how you'd imagine like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. That's the best way I can
right.
describe him. Like, he's comes
Good
across
mental
super
picture.
innocent, but like he's so big that like he could accidentally snap someone's neck. Like, that's the vibe. And so he would always buy like Haribos and like cans of fizzy drinks. Like, he was really like big, like overweight as well, and quite tall. So he was quite a big person. And he'd always buy these sweets, whatever. I was friendly with him. Like, I could kind of tell that he maybe had a learning difficulty. So I was always really nice to him and like, whatever. Anyway, one day he was standing in line, and this lady who was quite like a prominent character, should we say, in the area. I do like her, so I don't want to slag her off, but she was a prominent character, should we say. Um, she was in the queue, and she was quite loud, to say the least. She was in the queue, and she basically was like, "Get out the shop, like, I don't want you near my kids," and all this, like saying that he was like, he'd been to prison for being like a predator, and how he'd like, I don't know, like R-worded somebody underage type thing.
God.
So stuff like that, like weird stuff like that apparently he'd done. And I was very shocked, like very, very shaken up by this, because I'd been serving this guy for coming up to a year, to then find out that he'd gone to literally prison for like something quite serious like that was like really scary. And at the time, I didn't know if it was real, and I told my boss about it, and I was like, I'm not sure if I really want to like continue serving him, or whether he should be like allowed to shop here, like if that's what he's done. But I don't know where you stand with things like that. Can you ban someone from your shop from like doing something like that? I don't know. But anyway, nothing ever really came of it. And I did later find the article that actually said what he'd done, and it was bad, and he did go to prison or something along those lines, or like some kind of assisted like living. He wasn't allowed to like be out on the streets, if you know what I mean. So that was fantastic. That was nice to know. And there's been a couple of situations like that, serving people in pubs, serving different people, then finding out what they've done, having the job that I work now, serving people and then finding out why they're in prison. They might say to you they've been in prison. You later find out why, and it's like horrific things. So not very nice. You do get a lot of that working in customer service over the years, but yeah, that pretty much sums up my interactions. I have got a few others, but we are running short on time. Do you have any other major ones that you'd like to mention before we move on to Chronically
Um,
Online?
to be fair, I have got one actually. There was a night out that me and my friend Lily, who lives in Sheffield, went on not too long ago. It was probably like last June. Lily lives in Sheffield. I live in North Wales. We meet there. So I get on the train, get to Manchester. 1 o'clock, we go out. Bottomless brunch instantly. Get absolutely hammered. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we realise, oh my God, we are so drunk by the time this bottomless brunch is finished. So we decide that we're going to need to sober up now. So we go into like Be At One, we go into all these places and literally just order like pints and pints of water to try and sober up. So
Mm.
we have a few weird experiences like around about this time, because we weren't really planning on going back to the hotel. We were like, we're just going to stay out all night from the end of bottomless brunch, and that's like a long time to be out, from like 1 o'clock until possibly about 4. I think we were out till about 4 a.m. So when we go in, we instantly notice there was this massive tall guy. I'd literally say he was about 7 foot tall. 7 foot guy standing, not because he was attractive or anything. We were just like Christ, he's tall. Standing in like the corner of the bar, which like was a little bit like, okay, right. So we go up and order our drinks, and we just notice that he's like literally staring at us like this. If for those of you who are on video right now, like this is how he's looking at us. Me and Lily decide to take advantage of the fact that this club is like gorgeous. We start taking photos and stuff, and we notice that he is nearing closer. He is literally taking steps towards us, but not even that. We'd look away, and then we'd look, and he would literally be in a different spot, like closer to us. Like it was like the Slender Man. Is it Slender Man game?
Like,
Look away, and
what's it called? What time is it, Mr. Wolf? And then you'd like turn
yeah,
around, and then Mr. Wolf turn around, you're like
and
running.
he's just there,
Yeah.
scary. And then it got to the point where he was literally like 2 meters away, and we were like, "Sound okay? We'll go up and get another drink." We get another drink. We notice he's disappeared, and we're like, bit weird. We exit the bar. We turn left. All of a sudden, there's a small alleyway. This man just appears from out of the alleyway, and we literally, it's like jump scare. Like he just comes out of this alleyway, and I'm like, "Where the hell have you come from? You disappeared 5 minutes ago, and now all of a sudden you're just here again." So anyway, we are walking in the direction down the street, and then he starts to come with us, like standing right next to us. And in situations like this, it's quite difficult to ignore a person when they are standing right next to you, staring at you. And
Yeah.
we were a little bit frightened, not going to lie, because he did give us a little bit of a jump scare. And he was like, "So where are you girls going?" And we're like, "Oh, we're not sure yet, because we're not going to give him our location." And I couldn't think of a speedy response. This is my first ever night out of Manchester. I couldn't give him a speedy response. So we're like, "Oh, we're not sure yet." He's like, "Oh yeah, like come up with me, like I'll show you a good time, like yeah." So we end up literally doing a trek of Manchester, and red flags were starting to appear. We walked past Manchester. Is it like Crown Court? Like literally like a courtroom, like
Yeah.
basically like a big courtroom, like close to Deansgate. If you guys are familiar, I don't know what it's called. He literally says out loud, "Oh yeah, like been in there a few too many times," and I'm literally thinking to myself, like, "What do you mean you've
Why are
been in
you
there a few
telling
too
me
many
you're a
times? What
criminal? Like, what the hell's
what
wrong
does
with
that
you?
what does that mean?" So anyway, we end up like going into this club, expecting there to be loads of people, but bearing in mind it was like 10 o'clock, like there wasn't many people there.
Mm.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll buy you girls a drink." And me and Lily, we were like, "We've got to get out of here right now." So he buys us a drink, and then we buy him a drink. We go into the bathroom, and we're like, "Right, okay, so we need to order an Uber right now to escape this man." We order an Uber to take us straight to Canal Street, and we are like, "Oh yeah, like we're gonna go back to the hotel, change our shoes." He's like, "Oh yeah, give me your phone number so that like I can get you guys in like 5 minutes." So we give him the number for the local Tesco, because like I'm trying to pull up the number, and I'm not going to give him my number. He knew our first names as well, Lily and Sadie. We should have told him fake names. We go outside, instantly Uber down to Canal Street, and then we never see him again. However, 2 weeks later, he adds my friend on Snapchat. Literally found just from the first name Lily and what she looks like. It's honestly like a girl, because I can do this. I can find someone just based on what they look like and their first name.
That's
I never expected a guy to do
insane.
that.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's impossible because Lily's a very common name.
Yeah, totally. Honestly. So he found her. He didn't add me yet. But yeah, he found her, added her on Snapchat. We searched up his name, and it was him. So
Oh my
blocked on
god.
everything. So that was scary, not
That
gonna
is
lie. But
quite
yeah,
scary. Like the way he managed that is very bizarre. Anyway, we are running out of time, so let's move on to Chronically Online.
Chronically Online news. Okay. So for those of you who've been on the internet in probably the past like month, I think you might have heard this kind of like rumor going around that Ariana Grande is the world's biggest homewrecker. Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, so I don't know any of the context. I literally
Okay.
just know that she apparently like yeah, apparently she's a homewrecker. I don't know. I don't like to say homewrecker because I feel like it victim blames like the woman when the man like went for her.
Yeah. So I think when it gets to the point where it's literally every relationship you've ever been in, I'm like, you literally have a thing for married men. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
like
all
you are the
right,
common
literally.
denominator.
So at the moment, she has released a new album. Well, she's releasing it this week, but she has released a single from her new album called Yes and.
Yeah.
And a lot of these lyrics that are featured in this song are basically in response to the homewrecker allegations. So why do people have these allegations in the first place? So basically, this started all back when she was on Victorious. So there was this girl whose boyfriend was an extra on the set of Victorious, and basically Ariana Grande had an affair with this guy, just like this random like extra. And this girl had recently made a TikTok about it where she says, "When karma finally exposes Ariana Grande after she stole your boyfriend in 2010." So this was actually the first sort of like homewrecker sort of thing. Like, she had a boyfriend and you've like basically slept with a boyfriend. So the second actual thing that's happened is, are you familiar with Naya Rivera? She's unfortunately passed away now. However, Na- Ariana Grande used to have a relationship with Big Sean. However, this was also when he was in a relationship with Naya Rivera. One time, Naya Rivera was actually on holiday, came back early, and found Ariana Grande at Big Sean's house.
Oh,
Basically, he was cheating on her with Ariana Grande. She then actually made the song "Thank You Next," in which she had like a burn book, and on Big Sean's page, she said like Big Sean could still get it, and at the moment he's married with 2 kids. So that's like the second
what?
one that
I
happened.
never saw
Um,
that.
yeah. So Cassie David, who was Pete Davidson's longtime girlfriend, I think that they'd been together for 4 years, actually got dumped by text. After 4 years with no apparent reason, after they'd been together a long time. And the next day she saw the iconic photo of Ariana Grande with a big ponytail, yellow hoodie with a lollipop coming out of a shop with Pete Davidson. So this is relationship number 3. There are
Mm.
several other ones. And I think that one of her songs, was it like "Break Up with Your Girlfriend because I'm bored," was
Yeah.
one of the reasons. Like people are like, "Why have we not picked up on this in the past?" Like "Break up with your
Mm.
girlfriend because I'm bored," and a lot of these things are like, "Why are you going home with her when you can come home with me?" Like a lot of her lyrics do
Yeah, a lot
imply
of
that.
weird like lyrics like that, which you don't think anything of because a lot of pop music is like that. Like there's songs dating back like "Don't You Wish Your Girlfriend Was Hot Like Me," like that from the Pussycat Dolls. That was years ago. But yeah, you just don't
Mhm.
think much of it. But when there's a pattern of things like that, I guess it does kind of make sense because if she writes her own music, like where's this inspiration coming from? You don't just wake up and randomly have a thought like that. It must be coming
Yeah.
from somewhere. So
Okay, so the next thing was obviously at the moment she is currently in a relationship with Ethan Slater, who, if you're not familiar with, he is a Broadway actor most famous for playing SpongeBob. And he literally looks like SpongeBob, which is a little bit
yeah,
crazy. Like
she
he
has a
is the
history of going
SpongeBob.
out with people who are like significantly less better looking than her, doesn't she? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, I just feel like all of her exes, they're not really on par with her looks wise. I know that sounds like a very
Yeah,
vain and shallow thing to say, but that is true.
I agree with you. So Ethan Slater was actually in a 10-year relationship in which he was married, and his wife actually gave birth, I believe, last year. So they have a newborn baby. Last year there was a I think it's on the set of Wicked. So Wicked has actually started at the moment, like the live Broadway version. Ethan Slater was cast alongside Ariana Grande, which is actually where they met in the first place. And Ariana Grande actually became a really good like family friend to this couple, Ethan Slater and his wife. She held their newborn and said that she someday wishes to be a mother like what she is. Rumors of their affair started happening, and they unfollowed each other on social media. And then Ethan Slater posted a tribute to his wife and baby for Mother's Day. This was last year. And then it was announced that Ethan and his wife are actually getting a divorce. His wife has since spoken out and said that this was because she discovered that Ethan was being unfaithful to her, and cheating on her with Ariana Grande. So again, this
Mm.
is what relationship number 4, and I believe that there are more, but from this article that I found, it just obviously labels these 4. So Ariana Grande has obviously just released this new single called Yes and some of the lyrics that are currently featured are "What's mine is mine, why do you care whose dick I ride?" So basically calling out everybody who's calling her a homewrecker, like, why do you care so much about my business? But at the end of
Mm.
the day, I think that if you live your life completely online, like, you do need to kind of like expect it. And also I
Yeah.
think people are very like quick to comment on inappropriate behavior, as they should be. And she's like, say it with your chest. People are saying it with their chest. People are calling you out online. Like nobody's hiding
Oh,
behind a screen. Like everybody thinks you're a homewrecker now.
oh, interesting. You know, I've never been a fan of hers, to be honest. I've always found her music just like weirdly provocative. Like, I'm not a big fan of like that kind of music. I can't lie, like WAP and like all that. Like, a couple of songs I do like, but a lot of it I'm like, this is just overly explicit and like just bad, like bad songwriting for no reason whatsoever. And she's very talented. Like that clip of her singing with The Weeknd, where she's singing Save Your Tears for Another Day. There's this iconic clip of them on stage. She's in this gorgeous dress. She comes out of nowhere. She looks stunning. And the performance, all the comments like, haha, Ariana Grande forgot she was human. Like, that's how insane she sounds. She sounds like a siren. Like, the notes she's
Yeah.
hitting are insane. Siren as in like the water creature, not as in like police siren. And yeah, it's a shame because she's very talented, but I feel like a lot of the attention goes towards like her lyrics and everything, which is kind of the same situation as like what's happening with Beyonce. I'm not gonna lie, I'm on that I don't like Beyonce wagon, and a lot of people like would die on that hill, like I love Beyonce hill, but I'm sorry, I'm really not a big fan of hers, and I feel like her recent music is really like, okay, you've got like creative freedom, you do what you want, like it's up to you, it's not up to me, but I feel like it takes away from her talent, like this Texas song like about Texas and like da 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 da, it's terrible, like it sounds like something out of like the Hannah Montana movie, like it's awful. I love Hannah Montana, but like that song is really bad, and like she's gone down this very weird overly pop sort of like thought route, and it's a shame because she has a gorgeous voice and like she's a very talented woman, and the music she's making now, I don't know if they think it's like empowering for women, but I find it degrading, the kind of music that they make. I feel like it very sexualizes, like overly sexualizes women, and it's like kind of defeats the object of like what they're trying to promote. I don't really get it personally. I'm all for like funny song, like I like what's that called, like what's that song called, Rich Baby Daddy. I like that song, like it's obnoxious but it's funny, like it's a fun dance and all that. But yeah, when you've actually got real talent and it feels like it's just going wasted on like these overly sexualized songs, it is a shame. But you know, that's obviously what the people want, if it's getting all the listens. But I can't lie, when that comes on the radio, I turn the radio off, I can't listen to it, it's that
It's
bad.
actually number one at the moment as well, isn't it? Like I think the whole like country movement is happening at the moment. Apparently,
Mm.
Lana Del Rey is releasing a country album this year. So is Beyonce.
Ooh.
Because I think that this one song by Beyonce is part of a country album. Anyway,
Yeah, so that is the Chronically Online news of the week. We will see you guys next Tuesday for our next episode. We hope you enjoyed. Again, if you have any dilemmas, send them over to our email address, which is gosspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on all socials. Obviously, if you are watching this, if you're not, if you're listening, then head over to our YouTube channel. I have shared the link on our Instagram because I think if you haven't got any videos, you won't actually, or a few videos, you won't actually come up on the search. So yeah, I'll put that over on the Instagram, which is whatsthegoss.pod. Give us a follow over there to keep up to date with when we post, if we've got any announcements, and for any links. And yeah, we hope you guys have a lovely week, and we will speak to you next week.
bye guys.
Bye.